Good morning. Today is Friday, the 28th of February, 2025. And before I say anything about the conditions in which we live and the latest fire hose of lies and firings, I want to say take courage and remember our history. And when I say that, right now, I'm not thinking of the French Revolution, especially. I'm thinking of 1961 when Bella Abzug and Dagmar Wilson organized millions of United States women, a women's movement brought together to end the war in Vietnam, which took some doing and some time, but also, and very pointedly at the time, to end atmospheric testing of nuclear weapons. 500,000 women marched in 50 cities demanding an end to the atmospheric testing, and it wasn't just that. That wasn't all that they did. They got together with scientists and with opinion leaders, and they did things like they brought together their children's teeth and had them tested for strontium 90. And boy, did those Geiger counters click! That was undeniable, and everyone realized that as long as the atmospheric testing went on, they risked losing a generation or maybe all generations of children. And so an end was put to it. An end was put. They put an end to it. And we can do that. And we are facing a great crisis now. We're facing several great crises. And we are more atomized than ever because we have been driven away from the union organizing that built the prosperity of this nation 100 years ago. But we can still organize. And you can be organized with others. You should be organized with others. Everything that you do in opposition to the government should be done in organization with others. And I've been trying to take my own advice. I've been meeting with my friends. I've been actually going to a protest with friends. And I used to do that many decades ago. And I'll continue to do it as my health allows. It's organizing together that makes this happen. Have courage. We've done this before. Have faith in humanity. Well, Reuters is reporting that spending in the US fell unexpectedly while inflation worsened. And the reason that the fall in spending was unexpected to the Reuters analysts is because they're not considering just how freaked out the American people are and how many of us are absolutely opposed to the Christofascist coup. More on that in a minute, but they point to the upcoming additional 10% China tariff, which is threatened by the Orange Buffoon, an additional 25% on Mexican goods. If I need to point it out, everything from avocados to car parts comes from Mexico. If that went up 25%, when that goes up 25%, is going to burn the American worker. And it is getting around. People are slowly starting to realize that 25% is a tax on us, not a tax on those companies. Trump keeps getting up on his hind legs and saying that it's otherwise, and all of his followers confidently say that it's otherwise, and they're about to find out, unfortunately for all of us. Now, turning to the Telegraph and an article by Ambrose Evans Pritchard. He quotes a Berkeley professor and a former head of the US Labor Department. The quotation is, "It seems almost unavoidable that we are headed for a deep, deep recession." When I wrote that out, I wrote deep, deep depression, but he did say recession, end quote. Payrolls, he says, are to dive by late spring. And companies, he compares the fall that we are facing. Let me be more clear about that. I'm talking about the spring, not the fall, and a fall as in going down. The recession that we are facing is due to the losses of 400,000 jobs a month easily from the federal firings, and due to the knock-on effects of the tariffs. And he compares it, excuse me, to the Brooks-Lehman fall of '08, the great subprime crisis. And he compares it to the pandemic crash. It's going to be that big, and it's going to take a little minute to cook, but it's in the pipeline. So you need to make whatever preparations. And as I was saying, people are not spending. I think people are kind of sniffing that in the air. Pardon me. It's a Flemish morning. The NOAA is being attacked by the coup, and they're talking about losing 800,000 workers. I hope that is not the case. Um, Maybe that was 80,000, whatever it is. It's a huge number of NOAA scientists are getting the boot. Now, if you're with NOAA, again, I say organize with the people around you, organize the people in the next desk, the next cubicle. You have no power until you're organized. And when you are organized, you have all power because these are illegal firings. These firings are being opposed by the judiciary because we have laws to prevent this. NOAA was created by legal process, by laws, literal laws that were passed by Congress, by both houses. They devoted funds, the people's funds, to this very necessary project for which you are working. Do not leave your desk. Do not be fooled by the pressure, just by the loudness of someone saying you're fired. There was a joke that I heard when I was taking German in the 70s. The professor said, it was said at the time that if you put on a uniform and yelled anything loud enough at Germans, they would do it. Well, now this is true of the United States. We don't know who's in charge. We don't understand that the presidency is literally and intentionally limited, and the presidency cannot go against its own remit by firing people in mass when they are supposed to be executing the will of the people as expressed by the legislature. The legislature has the power of the purse. They hired those 800,000 NOAA workers. They're there for a reason. Your firing is illegal. Do not allow yourself to be fired. Rip up that piece of paper, organize with everyone else, hold to your desk. They can bring goons around, but you can bring defense around. And defense can mean community, it can mean anything, because this is an illegal act and you have the right to defend yourself. That is true of all the federal workers facing firings now. You're not being fired, you're being run off illegally. So I hope that has some effect somewhere. I've seen some reflection of those ideas, but they are correct, I will say with confidence, and I'd better be right, because if I'm not right, then I'm encouraging insurrection illegally. But I tell you, I am right. Those firings are illegal. It is wrong for you to leave your desk. So the ugly months, according to the analyst, will be April and May. The tariff inflation will start hitting about then. In other news of the fire hose of fear, the state of Iowa going along, the Republicans there going along with the national theft of the election, have stripped all civil rights from transgender persons in Iowa. They have stripped civil rights from transgender people in the face of a huge protest right there at the in Des Moines, right there at the Capitol building in Iowa, as the people shouted at them not to do it. They passed it out of hatred and out of whatever pinch-minded foolishness makes a GOP person these days. Federal Judge Alsup has ordered, this is an example of what I was talking about, has ordered the OPM to retract its firing memos. Musk is to retract its firing memos. That means not just stop putting them out, but to put out another memo saying, oh, we were wrong. You're not fired. So you see how it goes. I mean, if you're working at a job and you get fired, here again with the air quotes, and you walk off, things are more difficult. That does not mean that you cannot get back in. You know where the back door is. Someone can hold that door open. If you act in mass, you do it by yourself, you're going to get arrested. So last I heard, NOAA employees are falling for the ruse. I hope that they stop. Meanwhile, a federal judge in Virginia has told has told uh, organizations there to go ahead with the DEI firings, in other words, the racist firings. This is a turn of speech that needs to end. Anti-DEI is just racism. These are racist firings. It is a racist, Christo-fascist regime that is stolen power. And since I've said that several times, let me say it again in a way that's easily memorized and that you can all easily repeat. You can find at gregpalast.com the careful accounting that shows and proves that millions of votes were stolen by the semi-legal challenge process, the anti-constitutional challenge process. I will say that it certainly goes against the intention of the Constitution and the stated will of the Constitution to give equal rights to each person, and that's huge. It's not just a few votes; it's 3.5 million votes in total that would have gone to Kamala Harris. And we don't know how many millions were stolen by the tabulator hacks, and that information is much more slowly coming out, but it still is coming out. So it's tabulator hacks and the millions of vote challenges means that this election was stolen. These thugs in power are not legitimate. They are not to be obeyed. Do not obey in advance. Do not obey. They are illegitimate. We will see them in chains. It will take a little while. The FDA's Vaccine Selection Council has been canceled. This is the FDA Vaccine Council that selects the mix of antivirus injections, the vaccine mix, which influential strains do they think are most likely, most deadly? That's what goes into the mix for this year's vaccine. It's been canceled, so that will kill people. We don't know how many it will kill. If it goes forward with the old vaccines and the flu finds some new strain that could have been prevented by a newer vaccine, then it will kill many, many people. We will see. And our nation is now aligned with North Korea and Russia. And I mention that because I'm referring to a UN vote that went along with Russia's and North Korea's lie that Ukraine started the invasion. I don't know the logic there. Did Ukraine invade itself? You know, I was on this program pointing out that the CIA was lobbing artillery shells into Donetsk and Luhansk starting in 2010. And that was reason to go to the United Nations and make complaints. That was reason for a police action by the United Nations. It was a reason for a lot of things, but it was not a reason for the invasion. And it's not an excuse for the invasion that Russia conducted. And that's not what Trump at all mean when they go to the UN and say that Ukraine started the invasion. They just mean to cancel history. They just mean to say something confusing and to stand with Russia and North Korea. And the only reason they could possibly have for that, to betray all of our NATO allies after all of these decades with US bases still and now a bit ridiculously standing in dozens of places in NATO countries, huge bases with air bases and other military bases still in place. The only reason to do that is because Agent Krasnov, aka our president, is in hoc to Putin. There are so many things that indicate that. So there's no doubt about it anymore. And I think we can just say that openly and continually. We have Agent Krasnov in power, and that is illegitimate, and we must arrest him. We must arrest Musk. I see lots of comments. Hi, Tat, John, hi, Ani. Solidarity is love in auction, indeed. 880 were laid off yesterday. More than 1,000 NOAA workers will be laid off soon. Okay, I'm sorry, I got my thousands wrong. I was wondering as I said it, it's like, gosh, that's a lot of employees. Okay, so 880. According to South China Morning Post, Chinese diplomats are going around and quietly saying to European capitals, your best friend has abandoned you. Let's uphold the multilateral order together. This is the first knock-on effect. So I want to march up. I want to add this up. This is a brief broadcast, and thank you very much for tuning in. I just want to say, have courage. The election is invalid. Again, we will see the crystal fascists in chains. It's a matter of time. Today is Buy Nothing Day. March 4th is the State of the Union, and there will be marches in 50 states. So look to 50501 on Reddit, for example, to find more information on that. March 4th protests. And if I may quote Les Miserables, will you give all you can give so that our banner may advance? Some will fall and some will live. Some will live. Will you stand up and take your chance? Have faith in humanity. Have courage. And that's what I have to say this morning. Thank you for tuning in. Our love goes out to you and to all the ships at sea.